changing lives.
Evening and welcome to the Law Chambers, where legal matters are discussed. Oh, it was one me. It's been a long break, and it's any kind of no. Oba we dryna or cha. Na is already. Mebu bell. Simple cry. So we've been gone for a while. Apologies. Something came up, and so we had to wait a bit. So we are in season 3. Hooray! Season 1, season 2, season 3. Wow. Season 1 we discussed, right? Season 2 we discussed inheritance and SSNIT matters. Today we'll do a recap of that. This season 3 we are going to discuss how to start a business. You want to start a business legally. How do you start it? How do you register? Who do you go to? Who do you talk to? What are the pitfalls? What to look out for? That is what we'll be discussing this season 3. But as usual, episode 1 and 2 will be recapping what we did the previous time. And then from episode 3, we'll start with the discussion proper. So yes, we have our SSNIT people here. All your questions, please bring them. We have our pension guru also here. And we have our lawyer also here. Every question you have in respect to what we discussed previously, you just let us have it. And as we usually do, before a season begins, we start with something interesting, something nice. Season 2, we began with a song from Mrs. Abigail in Cancer. This time round, we are going to start with spoken word from Asantiniba. When she's done, we'll talk to her a bit and know more about her. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy her.
Grab a chair and get the chattels. Come out of your lair and let the kids put down their pastels. Before God, lay your heart bare and make some room for angels.
We'll be right back.
God trying to hide something from me? What is it all about? That you can eat everything in the garden, but this tree don't touch it. She was under the tree. The devil always find you at the location where your temptation is. The devil can tempt man to sin, but the devil does not sin for man. You are a sinner because you cannot sin unless you mentally detach yourself from God. The minute you start doubting him, that's when the devil gets opportunity to put you to the test. Don't allow the devil to put doubt in you.
In his presence, showing this and every Friday at 6:30 p.m. only on Hope Channel Ghana.
Yamamu Akwaba from Kokra. Inspiration behind the hymns.
Makwa Jojo na mewahi.
The main objectives are two main objectives for this beautiful program. We sing a lot of hymns for different worship services, including Sabbaths, as Seventh-day Adventists. We want to find out who are the people who wrote these hymns, who are the composers that they worked with. What was the inspiration, the motivation, the power that enabled them to pen these beautiful hymns down for our benefit? That is number one. And then number two is to encourage congregational singing. It appears as Seventh-day Adventists, we have to improve our congregational singing. Join us on the program Inspiration Behind the Hymns.
Every Friday, 8 to 9 p.m. on Hope Channel.
There's one thing I often say, no one's work is easy. And the minute you underestimate someone's work, the minute you laugh at someone's work, it's just a matter of time. Yours will come up. So when you see someone doing something, all I always say is just say a prayer for that person. So whilst we are doing this, please say a prayer for us. And we'll be having our poem after the end of the show. So don't worry, just relax. Relax, chill, give us. So we discussed a few things last season. We are going to look at drafting and inheriting under a will. If you don't make a will, what to look out for, SSNIT contributions, other investments. We did all that 3, 4, 5, 6. We are going to recap those ones. And if you have any questions, I have a lot of questions here for them. Viewers sent them in. And so we're going to ask all those. If you have more, you can send it to us on 0235 371 287. 0235 371 287. And they'll do all the justice in the world for us. So, 10 seasons this season as well. So, please, as I said, say a prayer for us. So, let me introduce my guests. I have Ms. Jemima Ofori. She's no stranger to this program. She's with SSNIT. She's been with them for the past 10 years. She's the Deputy Manager for Corporate Affairs for the Accra South area. She's responsible for increasing awareness about SSNIT pension scheme among stakeholders, including us. So what she's doing here, it's part of her work. She holds a first degree in Bachelor of Arts and a master's degree in communication. Jem, welcome back.
Thank you, Anita.
And easy.
Good to see you.
It's good. Why are you trying to tell me something?
Good to see you.
Sape,
Yes.
good to see me. Okay, I accept. Then I have the only gentleman in our midst, Mr. Isaac Ewa. He's with VRA. He's the head for Provident Fund and Pension Secretariat. He's a chartered analyst and a fellow of the Association of Chartered Institutes of Financial and Investment Analysts. Sure. He is a student with Ghana Investment and Securities Institute. He specializes in wealth and portfolio management. Economy hinska. And you specialize in financial investment analysis. If you are in He's very passionate with what he does, and he's a licensed trustee by the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. And then I have our lawyer in our midst, Anita Nyameche Okra. Or say Nyameche no ontonchene. Make a sheni kununo. Or say ontonchene. Anita. So also on Tunchini. We ukunuti o. Or say Anita Okra. Before the can say Anita Nyamiche, the Nyamiche on Tunchini. Yeah, she's a lawyer with over 7 years of experience. She is a legal person with the Lands Commission. Ube soko register our lands na your more. On register my land, my way and yes, million land, she's a member of Ghana Bar Association, and she's mostly involved in land and real estate law. She's an Adventist and fellowship with Prince Emmanuel in the Adventist Church. And she, as usual, she's pretty. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you.
I don't mean any pressure. Why give you pressure mental? Yes, and my interpreter. We all know my interpreter. Atanya Miche. Ata, welcome. Welcome. So you're back to season 3, and hopefully you'll learn something. Anything. So let's dive in. Let me start with wills. So Anita, can someone say that I will not make a will, but I will write something down? So officially, I will not talk to my lawyers, but I'll just write something down when I'm about to die, and then that is it. And that should do. Do you think that's possible?
No. So legally, a will has a format. A will basically is a declaration of how you intend that your property should be distributed after you are no more, after you die. And the law prescribes that it should be written. And the way it is, you need to be guided by a lawyer. You can write something down, but it might not be valid after you are gone. So it's important that you consult a professional, a lawyer, to guide you through that process. Because there's a form to it, how it should be written, how it has to be executed, the witnesses you need, even the capacity in which you should be in to have a will. It's not everybody who can do a will. So you need to consult a professional, a legal consultant to help you in that process.
So when you say it's not everyone who can make a will, we are not saying that as a person you can't make a will, but we are looking at the state of mind, right?
Yes.
So it's possible that
you have to be 18 years and above, and you should be of sound mind.
Exactly.
Yeah, and have the capacity. So if you could be more than 80, but if you don't have the capacity, you are not in that mental state to make a will, you cannot make a will. So your will be contested. You can do it, but so we have instances where people are no more, then their children will go to court and say, no, my father couldn't have made that will, because at that point in time, maybe he was sick, he had dementia, he was not of the mental capacity to understand what he was doing within that time.
And the minute that happens and they throw it out, it means the whole thing goes into intestacy.
Yes, intestacy.
So what is intestacy?
Yeah. So that is, intestacy is dying without making a will. So in that case, we have to fall on PNDC law 111 for the state to help us share the property. Yeah.
So someone asked the question, and the question was the effect that can a stepchild benefit? Can an adopted child benefit?
Yeah, once you are adopted, then you are deemed legally to also be a child. So you can benefit from.
So it means if someone is adopting someone, the person should make sure that if you don't make a will, all things being equal, that person will benefit.
Yes, will also benefit from the share, just like any other child.
Because the story that the lady sent was to the effect that she was adopted, the man didn't make a will, and the children are not prepared to share the property with her because she's not part of them. But she's been adopted. She was adopted when she was 2 years old. The man considered her a child, took her through school. The surname of the man is on her. So her question is, can I contest this?
Of course, she has every right to contest, because once you are adopted, you are a child, and you have all the rights, the full right, just like any other biological child. So you have a share. So
can a will be forged? Because someone asked that question. He says that he doesn't think the father made that will, so he's suspecting forgery. Is it possible?
Yes.
And what should the person do?
A will can be forged. if you suspect that this will couldn't have been made by my father, you can contest it in court. So at the stage where the application of probate is made, you can put in a caveat.
What is a caveat?
So a caveat is when there's an application for the grant of probate or letters of administration, and you are like objecting to the process, that the will, you suspect that the will was fraudulently made or was forged, and that it couldn't have emanated from the deceased. Yeah, it happens. Sometimes people have been successful in proving that the person, maybe at the time that the will was purportedly made, the person was in coma, was sick, didn't have that mental capacity
To have done it.
yeah, to have done it. So maybe they just held his hand and made a thumbprint. Something, it could have been done.
Yeah. And then another question from one of our viewers is the effect that they're a couple and they intend to make a will. Do you think it's advisable for them to make the will as a couple, or they should do it separately?
You know, our laws doesn't provide for joint will. So, and then by the very nature of a will, it will be very difficult for couple or people to do it together, because the will takes effect after you are gone, after you die, and it's not guaranteed that both of you will die together. So, if one person goes, then what happens to the will? So you should have individual wills. You cannot, the law doesn't provide for couples making a will or doing a joint will.
So it's not advisable.
It's not advisable, no.
To do that.
Yeah.
So if a couple wants to make a will and they come to you as a lawyer, will you charge them one? Because the two shall become one, they're a couple. So will you charge them one or?
So in that instance, you are making two separate wills. So everything is two. Yeah, so the processing is two. And so it flows from there. The charge will also be double. So
will there be a discount possibly?
Oh, I mean, wills are not something that, personally, I don't do will and charge like you do other commercial transactions and you charge. I see it more as a solemn something. So you are helping. So I usually don't charge much. The same reason that even if you look at the bar scale of fees, you see that when it gets to intestacy matter, probate and administration issues, we are not supposed to charge like that high. That is why
we have lawyers taking percentages.
Oh no, I don't think the fees provide for that. That's why even for stamping of vesting as it's exempted, because it is deemed that it's not a commercial venture where anybody makes profit. So
no, that's not true. That's not true. And then there was another lady who was asking, can a beneficiary be a witness? And if not, and that has been the case, is it possible to redeem the situation?
Okay. So, by law, a beneficiary cannot be a witness under a will.
Who is a beneficiary, so that we understand?
So, if maybe my mother or Mr. A is the father, made a will and made Kwabena, his son, a beneficiary in the will, like he has devised or bequeathed some property to Kwabena, Kwabena cannot be a witness under the will, because it will be deemed that maybe he influenced the father to make that disposition to him. So once Kwabena becomes a witness, that whole will becomes invalid. Yeah. So Kwabena cannot be
a witness.
A beneficiary cannot be a witness under a will.
Okay. So please, if you have more questions on intestacy and wills, please let them come in while I move to SSNIT, because I have a lot of questions coming for SSNIT, and I don't know, Charlie. So there's a gentleman, and his problem is quite simple. The father made some contribution to SSNIT, and what happened was that he's been trying to even know who the beneficiaries are. SSNIT is not interested in giving him that information. He also is of the view that all the what happens in the event of a contributor or the children of the age, but the beneficiaries are outside? So they are children, but the beneficiaries are not children. They are ordinary people. Is that possible? So let's look at these two scenarios.
Okay, so I'm excited you said you dealt with our lawyer first. You know, when you are talking about beneficiaries and SSNITs, it's just as to say that you have done something in confidence. So when we say that people should update their nominee records or beneficiary list with us, we are careful as though you are doing it like you're seeing a lawyer and doing a will. So in that event, we advise that people should try as much as possible to make their nominee information very discreet. You don't involve the people. So if SSNIT comes to us, someone comes to SSNIT and says that I'm updating my records so that in the event of my death, these are the people who will benefit. There's a caveat that in the event of the person's death, he did not include anyone. Nobody followed him or her. You could have followed him anyways, but the records are there, kept such that until the person dies, it cannot be released. So if you come and you say that you are a child and I need to know the list of beneficiaries of my late dad, it is not done. It's as though we are giving out information that doesn't belong to you. Yes. So what it is that you have to, whether a child, a spouse, a relative, you need to give us an evidence of the deceased member to prove that indeed they are passed on or they are no more. And that's a process that we have to go through. We need to really ascertain whether the person is indeed dead. Because we have an instance where a couple walked to our office, a man and a woman, and gave an evidence of death of the man, that he's dead. But they were still in front of us.
You kidding?
Yes. Because
they don't know how to sue.
Yeah, because there's this notion that, oh, SSNIT says evidence of death. Let's just give it, and once we prove it, the money comes. No. So we have trained benefits officers and investigators. They are not police officers, but we call them investigators, who will have to ascertain the genuineness of that evidence you've been provided to be sure the person is indeed dead. Then we'll now have to fetch the records or the nominee information that the deceased person prior to his death or their death gave to us. So that is where the proper investigation starts. We need to know whether, if you say, for example, give it to Anita, anyone who poses as Anita is really is indeed Anita. So we are careful not to pay wrong people. Pay
Is it in that situation that you just want to chop the money? Because there's another question that comes up to the effect that if the person doesn't come for the money, SSNIT keeps the money. And so all things being equal, you don't want us to come for the money so that you can chop our money.
No, SSNIT doesn't chop money. Interestingly, you know, in Ghana, it will surprise you. As soon as one passes on, the family will come. You will be surprised.
So what happens to monies that are not
claimed?
They are always there for whoever who is due to come and claim.
So if the person doesn't claim,
they will claim.
Hey, SSNIT!
They will claim. I'm talking to you from experience because I used to be a benefits officer investigator. So that's what my job, like you have to go to the field and you'll be surprised you sit in the office and people come and, oh, this relative of mine, we're not really in good terms, but when he died, I managed to get their SSNIT number. So please check. Let's see if he has something. And quickly, you will see the family running helter-skelter, look, feeding us with evidence of death, yes, for us to process. So as long as you are a relation and you come and you give us the primary information of the deceased member, it's not automatic that you are a beneficiary. Let's get this straight. People think that as long as I front it and I say I'm a head of family, okay, I'm a next of kin to some insurance is done elsewhere, and I'm very certain that I should be the one in SSNIT. It doesn't work like that. So when they come and they find out, and some of them start getting disappointed, and then in the middle of the process, they want to, back off. But by then, you would have provided the evidence. And so we also go on to continue the investigations and pay the right people, pay the beneficiaries. So we don't chop monies.
Okay, so now we have someone who is not part of the family benefiting, and the children are there. Of course, they are all of legal age, but they are there. Is there something to be done?
So Anita, I need to get this straight. Somebody elsewhere.
So someone not part of the family.
Okay. it would interest you to know that if you really go into this, you realize the person is actually a family member. But because, I'm not saying in this case, because probably it didn't get so close around maybe people that thought they were going to benefit, such beneficiaries or nominees are termed as outside, outside the family. Yes. So you remember in our previous season, I kept on hammering on this point: update your beneficiaries with the right records that you want to appear. And I even gave this on a lighter note. I was like, so that when you are dead and gone and lying down your grave, you'll be excited that these are the people I really nominated. If you don't do the right thing after your death, certain things like this will come up, and family will be like, oh, when you are taking the benefits from SSNIT, it's a long process and all that. Assuming you nominated me and I predeceased you, I have predeceased you, you are the original member, SSNIT member, but my name is still in your records. If after, I'm not saying I'm going to die, but after your death, I need to...
after your death?
After your death, if it's ascertained that I even predeceased you, then what lawyer said, the PNDC law 111 is, it now comes into, you know, is applied in redistributing the portion of that deceased member. So some family will go like, oh, why are you giving this man this portion? Because we know that he wasn't even on good terms with the deceased member. But unfortunately, that man or whoever it was would have been who the family actually met and customarily selected that succeed our brother or our mother. And so where we are using the PNDC law, it's the spouses of the deceased member, the children, parents, and then next of kin. So when we say next of kin in SSNIT, we mean the customary successor. And then you go to this man or woman, and they are excited because you didn't do the right thing by updating your nominee records, by expunging the name of the deceased family member you used, you know. So it's important to update at least once every 5 years.
Jim, so someone is in the informal sector. Do you think it's possible to contribute, and what is the procedure?
It's very, very easy. You know, SSNIT's, our core mandate is to provide income security for workers. All workers in Ghana. So it doesn't apply to just these workers seated here. It applies to the taxi driver, the online trader, dressmaker, the consultants, the lawyer. They are all private people. They are self-employed persons. They do their own jobs. So if you are also a worker in Ghana, then you also deserve a pension. So it's very simple. You just have to walk to us and tell us, I'm my own CEO, I am my own boss, I am my own madam, and I want to join the scheme. As long as you are between the ages 15 to 45 years, that is if you have never contributed, you can't join. But there are some people who were in formal establishments and are doing their own jobs now. You can just continue from wherever you stopped. It's simple. You just discuss with us an amount that you think you can pay. But that will be determined on the salary, say you say you are paying yourself. You know, some of these works are seasonal. You know, it's not like monthly salary. So you can tell us, so between 5,000 to 7,000, I'm sure I can pay myself, say 6,500 or something. So based on that income or salary you declare to us, because you are doing your own job, we calculate a 13.5% on that amount, and then you pay. And the payment is flexible. Once you start with the first payment, people are very busy in this country now. So you just use our Momo platform to continue your subsequent payments. Yes.
Okay, so you share that platform with us before we leave. But frankly speaking, economy in minding. Okay, even for the formal sector, salary worker can go. So the informal sector, the person should bring to SSNIT. Do you think, what advice will you have for such a person? Because they are doing hand to mouth.
Yes, the same hand to mouth, the hand is still going to the mouth. Interestingly, there are a lot of people who have bought into this idea. So currently, I'm sure you might have heard that SSNIT is on a project called SEED.
That's it.
SEED. When you buy aba.
That's it.
So sow your seed. It simply means self-employed enrollment drive.
Oh, okay.
It's something we are embarking on. So we are all over markets, church places.
Those small monies do you want?
Yes, we don't want, it's for their own good. You know, the people have to know the value they will get from it.
True.
Okay, and some of these informal sector workers, you know, majority of them are even highly exposed to risk. Yeah. So it's even important that they understand that they stand to benefit what we call the invalidity pension because of the nature of the income, their jobs that they deal in, like these couriers, dispatch riders and all of the market women seated at hot suns and all that. I mean, I'm not saying it happens to only them, but they stand a chance of getting sick or having accidents and all of that. So whilst we are looking at old age, retiring peacefully at age 60, anything is possible before 60.
Right now, looking at the economy, you know, as I said, you know, we are suffering in a way. You know, in a way we are suffering. And so my question is, I've been contributing. I'm right now hungry, okay? You say I should wait for 60 years. If I wait for the 60 years, I will die before then. SSNIT, is there something you can do about it?
Anita, you won't die. Let me
it's someone's question, though.
I know. let me say this. Our Director General said something, and it was very profound. He says, "Enye sika bia na yedi."
Now be wune.
No, enye sika bia na yedi. So you should know that SSNIT is not a savings institution or an investment. It's an insurance institution, insuring you against old age, invalidity, and death. These are the three main contingencies.
So right now that is not going well, that I'm starving. You are waiting for me to be 60 whilst I'm 30.
Exactly. So you need to, you know, put your future.
So that's why
put
we
your
have
future
to
into your own hands.
We have to look at a backup plan.
Exactly.
Because if you do tier one, nothing
won't.
until you are 60 and all that, you don't get in. So that's when Ike comes in here. Ike, we've looked at SSNIT tier 1. Talk to us about tier 2 and tier 3. How should we? And remember that the salary in Sonye, you see, look at it from that backdrop. And what's the way forward?
Okay, Anita. So
because Bank of Ghana cry or the car. So
thank you, Anita, for your question. And good evening to your viewers. So before I just come to the question, as a little add-on from the question that Jemima addressed. The question I was asking, that in a situation where their dad nominated outsiders, quote unquote, but the children were not. Well, I know with the lawyer here, we know that in such instances, the Children's Act may be invoked. Right?
Well, they are not children as in under 18. They are above 18.
Yes, but even if they are able to justify or prove that they are legitimate, children. Okay. They can also seek, just Mama is here, I think they can make a case, and then something will be done for them.
Okay.
Again, the SSNIT nomination form requires, there's a column that requires you indicate your relationship with the nominee. And so if it is found out that the person actually lied, then of course, as lawyers are here, we know that then it becomes something.
So if the person is not family, you can't nominate the person.
So, you know, we deal with, because he said that, let me quickly, we deal with two systems of inheritance in Ghana here. So, even on the form of nomination, you are going to be asked, do you inherit from your maternal or paternal? Some actually do dual inheritance. So, based on that, there's a list of people that can inherit, like sister's son, brother's daughter, you know, that kind of thing. So, it falls under, and it will guide you for you to provide us the names, so that, you know, some people will come and say, I have 3 children, but in actual sense, it's just one child, biological. The others
and nephews.
The others are nephew and nieces, but they won't want to tell you, oh, me person me yimu, oh me mini ama o we are me farm, me ana me show. Some will tell you the truth, but you want to do the right. Others will not. So after their death, we will investigate, and it will come to bear that, oh, it's actually not a biological child, but his late brother's or sister's daughter. It doesn't mean we will not pay their money to the person. So in our report, we indicate that indeed they were nominated, but it's not a child to the deceased member, but a nephew or niece. And it's not going to change the percentage that was given to the person. It's still, so yes, you state your relationship and then the percentage. you are going to give to the person. So if it's just one person, it's 100. If 10 people, still 100.
Because what is really cool, in a will, I can will and give everything to my alma mater. If I want, I'll not even give to any
pet.
Yeah, Jack. Yeah, I can give I can give everything to my dog, Jack. Baba, you are saying SSNIT, you can't do that.
No, because these are
you're tying our hands. It's my contribution.
Contributions that needs to be paid to nominated dependents, and dependents are
for you.
Yes, dependents are obviously, All
right, so let's come to tier 2, tier 3.
Okay, so now back to the question. Thank you. So, yes, regardless of how much income you are earning, I mean, as she rightly said, and rightly so, no matter how much you earn, no matter how much hits your account as a disposable income, so the best thing is at least save something for the rainy day, right? And the good thing is that the tier 2 is also a mandatory scheme. And so when we say mandatory, it's like by force, it's backed by law. So just as tier 1, which is SSNIT, is mandatory, automatically once your salary is going to be paid, the deduction that is made, the entire 18.5, you have the tier 1, tier 2, SSNIT will take the 13.5, and then 2.5 will be given to NHIE, and then they will manage 11%. The other 5% goes towards your tier 2 contribution, and that is also invested towards your retirement. So technically, compulsorily, you are compelled by law to do this backup plan in addition to the tier 1. I mean, previously, SSNIT was handling both, but the Act 766 came to decouple that one from SSNIT, and so that is also another source of income. Of course, there are other...
So the tier 2 is untouchable?
It's untouchable, yes.
So the only touchable one is a tier 3?
Tier 3, of course, which is not mandatory, it's voluntary. And it is voluntary because not every company or every employer has a tier 3, right? So these are the provident funds. So if you are lucky, you find yourself in a company where that exists, then it affords you an opportunity to contribute there as well. And it comes with other benefits, just like the tier 1, tier 2, which is the tax exemptions and what have you.
But the tax exemption for tier 3 is 10 years?
Yes, so that is if it's a registered scheme. If you register your scheme under the NPRA rules, then you have that tax holiday. What it means that you continue to enjoy tax-free benefit on that contribution that is going towards your pension. And you can access your funds after 10 years. Now, the essence is that you are giving your money to government, right? Quote unquote. Pension funds are cheap funds for government to borrow from for developmental projects, right? And so, as a reward, government is giving you that tax exemptions. And you can only access your funds after the 10 years. And this year, a lot of more companies have accessed their funds because they've crossed the 10-year tax holiday. But if you decide to withdraw, make partial withdrawal before the 10 years, then it will be subjected to tax. And under the GRA Act, it will suffer a 15% tax application on the contribution.
Are there exceptions? Because I realized someone was asking a question, and I spoke to my tier 3, and they told me that they are doing something about if you want property, they will use it as loan for you. And if they use that loan for you, then it means that you not pay any tax.
Okay, so that also exists under the Income Tax Act of 2019. That also exists. What the law provides is that if you are a contributor under these 3-tier schemes, whether tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, now, 1, you have an opportunity to use your tier 2 or tier 3, either of them. That is if you are playing in all the avenues. Not everybody has tier 3, so if I have, say, tier 2, I have the opportunity to use my tier 2 balance to secure a mortgage, and that should be a one-time mortgage. Now, there is another benefit under the Income Tax Act that says that if I am a first-time beneficiary to a mortgage, what is going to happen is that whatever interest expense that is on the mortgage, I can use my tax liability to pay off that interest expense. So let me just explain. Assuming I go for a mortgage facility of, say, 500,000 cedis, and normally they'll give you a repayment schedule or an amortized schedule which says that every month you are paying maybe 3,000 cedis, right? Now, in most of our financial institutions, what they do is that they front load more of the interest in the early period of the loan. So the 2,000 I'm paying every month, you realize that maybe 1,500 is going to settle just interest, and I'm only paying 500 cedis towards the principal payment. Now, the income tax law says that I can, once I am a beneficiary, once I apply and I do that, what is going to happen is that if I'm going to pay that interest, mortgage repayment, assuming my payee, so in my office, at the end of the month, every month, let's say my tax liability is, say, 2,000 cedis. Let me put it that way, 2,000 cedis. My tax liability, that is the tax that I'm paying as payee, pay as you earn income to government or GRA, is 2,000 cedis. I've gone for a mortgage, and I'm paying 3,000 cedis every month. But in that 3,000 cedis, I'm saying that interest component is, say, 2,500, and only 500 is principal. The law says that I can use that 2,000 tax that I'm paying to offset the 2,500 interest that I'm paying on the mortgage. So in actual fact, my actual money that I'll be using to settle or pay off the mortgage will be 500 cedis. 500. Because my tax liability is settling the interest for me.
And how do you go about it?
It's just work to, that is if you're an employer, you discuss with your employer, and then your employer knows that, oh, okay, you've gone for a mortgage, and you are a primary, this is a first time mortgage, yes, not somebody that you've taken a mortgage, and, so you benefit only one time. You benefit one time. If you benefit from it, you will not benefit again. So you work to, if you've taken a commercial mortgage, and it should be a commercial mortgage.
What does that mean?
So, you know, some schemes, some companies have internal housing loan schemes. So, for instance, where I come from, my company, we have an internal housing loan scheme. It is not commercial because, let's say, the interest you are paying is not a commercial interest. Okay. And so, in that case, you may not qualify for that, yes. But I go for a mortgage from, say, a bank. Yes, it's a commercial because no bank is doing pro bono or free business. No. So in that case, I can apply. But you have to talk to your management or your company, your employer, once they agree, because a setup has to be done. Something has to be done in your payroll to be able to do this kind of payment that we are talking about. Because your pay system may be said that at the end of the month, your salary is subjected to the graduated scale, and then payee, you are paying your interest. Something has to be done to indicate that, as you may see, he has gone for a loan, a mortgage loan. And so for him, when we deduct, we have to offset it for him, right? So you have to bring your employer on board. And once that is done, you qualify. I mean, there's a case in hand. I mean, being like, I'm sure once the lawyer is here, even in Ghana, yes, an employee took the employers to court. He said he's gone for a facility and he knows that it's a provision under Act 766. Okay. So he wants his finance team to do that for him. They refused to do it. He took them to court. He won. He won handsomely. And so these are opportunities available to us under the prevailing Act 766. And
so then there are lots of ways to really get yourself property before you. Yes. But we are not aware of them.
And it all boils down to awareness and education. And as I said in the previous season, for instance, when you take SSNIT, for instance, I always say that SSNIT is the most transparent in terms of tier 1. It's the most transparent pension scheme. But oftentimes people critique it, and you can't fault them because there is lack of awareness. There's lack of awareness and education, and then there's also unmanaged expectation, and that is the problem with SSNIT.
Please don't do SSNIT work for them.
I'm not doing their work for them. Of course, there are. so that is it about education. All right, so now it's about education.
Also advise us on the way forward in terms of general investments, because frankly speaking, okay, and we are always talking about make a will. But at the end of the day, what the person will chop, even how the person will even invest, is becoming an issue. So give us a general advice on how to invest, where to invest, because the bonds, treasury bills, you see, they are suspicious. What do we do? Do we go into real estate? What do we do?
Anita, thank you, but now nowhere cool. Somebody will say that unfortunately we are living in an era where all the basic and fundamental theories or principles in economics that we knew have been made nonsense. I mean, we all knew that government instruments were the quote-unquote risk-free because they were near risk-free, right? Government was the safest because in accounting we say something is going concern. Government is going concern. If today government A doesn't pay me, government B will come. It's in perpetuity. So when you are lending your money to government, you don't fear. But you can't confidently say so today, right? And so yes, it is real. The risks there, the anxiety is real. But the question is, you can also not afford to do nothing.
Oh, what her mother did, it was wonderful. Just that it was stolen. You see, you put everything in your house.
That is part of the risk. And in life, risk is real.
I mean, form the share or crank.
I know to me a pro.
In a way, some pro. All right.
You know, so yes, but so the downside to that, I mean, I did just mention that you cannot afford to do nothing. You see, the dilemma between do nothing and do something, it's real. Now you have to do something. Why? Because if you choose not to invest or engage in any investment activity because you fear for the uncertainty. Now, don't forget that every human being, as we sit here, we are all confronted by one single enemy, and that is inflation. Inflation is the one we are all fighting because that is what is taking away our purchasing power.
Someone tells us that you can convert it into dollars as our mother did.
That is one way. That is one.
Hide them.
It is one way. I mean, it is one way. I mean, investing in, say, Forex, of course, because you are preserving your value. And then also, when exchange rates appreciates, you get what we call exchange gains. But the question is, I mean, if we all decide to purchase Forex and keep, I mean, our economy is going to suffer, as we are already seeing. Somebody will say, the managers are already doing that, so why don't you do that? But you can't, you have to be a patriotic citizen.
What other form of investment should people be looking at?
Yes, so there are a lot of opportunities. I mean, you mentioned yourself, you mentioned real estate. And let me touch on real estate. Yeah, of course, you might say that real estate is
not liquid.
It's not about the liquidity, but I mean, if you look at our part of the world, because there is a deficit, a huge deficit in housing. I mean, I checked online. We have about almost 2 million plus housing deficit, and luckily for us as well, you realize that real estate appreciates quite faster and quickly in our part of the world. And so investing in real estate is one sure way of safeguarding your assets. Now, most people also invest in real estate, not just even for the value appreciation, but it's a form of kind of prestige. It offers that kind of personal gratification. And Penifobu baby say, Obi firu mu ana obi ka baby a yebisa say na ne sika wa hia na sika hina no wo yebisa say ne fie e wa hin. So people will want to invest in real estate, right? It also gives you that kind of comfort because you have control over your assets. If I have money and I bought a parcel of land, at least my economy who's as I that one, you say, oh, me them misiki my fan go to bank and when your haircut, say ponko, say back bush, you know, so it gives that kind of comfort. And of course, the value appreciation. Real estate, you realize you buy a land today, within 2-3 years, you can sell it 3 times the price. Yes. And so real estate pays off. Of course, there are also the downsides. And an investment, every action you take has a risk attached to it. There is litigation. They say, oh, I could draw. Because as I say, we try to work, no bibu. You know, so litigation is there. And then you also look at location of the property. And normally when you say real estate, it's not just about maybe building houses and selling. Buying a land, a parcel of land, half land, quarter plots, it's all considered real estate.
Any other form of investment? I think my
of
viewers
course, we have the mutual funds. The mutual funds are the what we call it falls under what we call the collective investment schemes, CSI, right? CIS, right? Collective investment. And so when you talk mutual fund, we're talking about like at the end of the month, I contribute say 50 cedis. You contribute 100 cedis, somebody contributes 200 cedis, and then it's pulled together, and then professional investors will go out on the market. And then because the money is huge, I alone with my 50 cedis cannot go and say, I'm going to diversify, put some of my money into real estate, put some into bonds, put some into this. But because it's a pool, now they are able to, because it's a huge pool, and so they are able to diversify the portfolio, put some of the money into Forex assets or foreign assets, put some into real estate, put some in other assets. And so the returns are quite encouraging when you aggregate it, right? And these are all avenues.
Thank you so much.
There.
Thank you so much. So all the questions that I had, we've answered them. So I will let Anita give me her final words, and then Jem will do the same, and I could do the same, and then we'll be right back. All right, Annie. When it comes to will, should people make will? What would be your final advice to our viewers?
My advice would be that it is way better to make a will than not to, because, you know, like I said, you want to own property. I always say that all the monies we make, you leave some in SSNIT, in insurance. You not assess it until you are dead. And so it's not for you. So you'll be suffering in life. But all those monies, properties, will have to go to people who never suffered with you, who may not have suffered with you. So you need to plan who you want to benefit. Because if you don't, then after you are gone, people who did not, did not deserve to benefit, by law will
come and take over.
Yes. They will come and they will even spend the money the way that you wouldn't have even spent it. Yeah. So once you have children, you have family, you should plan that when you are gone, everything will be done orderly, according to how you meant it to be. So it's very, very important. And sometimes you think that, oh, once you are alive, everything is fine. It's after you die. Sometimes people fight even at the funeral grounds because of property, because there was no will. But if there is a will, and your will should not surprise your family. You cannot make a will and then after you are gone, people that they don't know are the people who are going to benefit. Your wife is not in. In fact, the law even makes provision that you need to provide for your spouse and your children under age. If you don't, the court can order that provision be made for them. Your will should not surprise. And I also deem it as it's a religion. If you are a Christian, it's a responsibility that God has imposed on you, even as a Christian, that you know, also to fear before you leave, so that after you are gone, everybody knows that, yeah, I deserve what my father gave me. Be content with whatever he or she was provided for in the will. So it's very, very important that you do that, so that your children are well taken care of. Your dependents will not suffer after you are gone. Because everything is
Thank you so much. Jem.
Okay, so I would like to say this, that the SSNIT scheme is for every worker in Ghana. Whether or not you do your own job, you're an employee or an employer. Old age will catch up with everyone at a point in time. We will not continue to be young as we are now. Accidents may occur whilst in active service. And as for death, it's so inevitable. No one can do away with it. So we are saying that the SSNIT scheme is for everyone. Personal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ike.
Okay, so I will also pick it up from where Jemima ended and say that people have to be aware about the pension schemes, the various pension schemes, and then based on that, they should lower their expectation, especially when it comes to the tier 1. That is what brings the shock. So know that SSNIT is a DB scheme, which is defined benefit. What you are entitled to is defined by law and formula, a formula base. It doesn't work with time value of money principles, right? But the other schemes are purely on time value money basis, time value of money basis. And so what you put in is what you get. So on that basis, take your retirement destiny into your own hands, and then just make sure that you have other investment schemes that will support you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope so. You've learned something. Hopefully, you've learned something. if I've not learned anything, me, I've learned meeting ministers for home office, someone for my contribution. That's it. But that was on the lighter side. Next week, we'll continue with question and answers. If you have any questions, you bring them. But next week, we'll be dealing, this one was SSNIT and all that, so we'll be dealing with landed properties. Season 2, we discuss everything about land, how to register it, where to go, who to see, and movable properties. So next week, we'll bring our guest here, and they will be answering all questions on landed properties. You bought a land, what are you supposed to do? How do you do it? How do you register it? We'll deal with all that next week. Again, just say a prayer for yourself and for each other, because these are not normal times. God take care of us, and He will be with us. Amen.
Amen.
Until then, next week. Bye-bye.
Hope Channel, changing lives.